It's actually it's a bit too hot. It's a bit too hot. Just they looked in person. We're back here. Sounds big. Oh, man.
Good job on the radio. I heard you come over here.
Oh, I did sound all calm.
Oh, yeah, you did. You sound all calm. How you make me feel
I
better.
know, but and also, the nice thing was I was getting lots of good information.
Yeah.
We also have Senator Stern here as well. He's going to stand. He might have a word that you want to say something very important.
I've been a breakout. Okay, got it.
Do you want me on this side again?
That sounds good. Yeah.
Hey, how did you not see me? Good to see you.
All right, I was going to start in a little bit.
Questions about
Very good.
you
guys good?
County.
Check. All right, good morning. This is the 11 o'clock briefing with the Woolsey Fire. We have participating agencies from both law enforcement and fire officials here. We'll leave all questions for the very end. Also behind me, we have a participating agency from Caltrans and Senator Henry Stern. I'd first like to welcome, speaking for Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Sheriff Jim McDonald.
Thank you all for being here today. I spent the morning seeing the fire devastation that now spans more than 96,000 acres over Los Angeles County and our neighbor Ventura County, and it is truly heartbreaking. The destruction of homes and property is still being assessed, while the estimate may be in the tens of thousands that have been saved, hundreds still sit in ruins. We fully understand that each house is a home. Each home has a life and memories attached to it. We see the pain and frustration of people trying to get back to their homes to assess for themselves what's left. We're beginning to repopulate several areas, but large portions of the fire zone remain closed. For those held back at roadside checkpoints, it must be confusing and frustrating as to why on this bright sunny day you are being turned away in some cases and deputies not letting you drive past and return to your homes. From all that I've seen and heard, the fire burned hotter, faster, and destroyed not only homes, but deep infrastructure such as power lines, water lines, sewers, roads, lights, and other things that make a city, particularly a safe one. Not since the devastating old Topanga fire back in 1993 has the area seen this kind of a firestorm. The fire was no different than any other major natural disaster, earthquake, tsunami, flood, from an incident command perspective. There are large trees and power poles that have fallen and are at the brink of falling, potentially crushing anything in their path. There are real health hazards from potential toxic burning smoke to other health-related concerns such as power outages, water main leaks, gas leaks, and as you can imagine, many other issues. And then certainly there's the wind. We're in what we hope will be the last day of a major wind event, but we've seen largely spared because the wind gusts sometimes as high as 50 miles an hour have been blowing flames back toward the already burned out areas and not toward new neighborhoods. The fire that flared up along the 118 freeway in Simi Valley is an example of how quickly a fire can move and spread. Just over an hour ago, we experienced another flare-up in the Lake Sherwood area of Ventura County, and the danger is far from over. If you're being held back, it's because your life and the lives of your family and neighbors are still potentially in danger. Numerous meetings occur every day with dozens of our county and city agencies, as well as our utility partners who are all responsible for the functionality of our infrastructure and overall safety of all of our residents. And this includes numerous fire agencies, building and safety departments, Public Works, Caltrans, Health Department, Animal Control, and supporting organizations such as the American Red Cross that have set up our shelters. We want to get you home, but more important, we want you to be safe. I will personally be working with our partners in the numerous cities and county areas, along with state and federal agencies who've come together to support our mission of returning our community and our residents to their homes. We're also reminding our personnel to deal with residents' questions in as sensitive a manner as possible. Recently, we had reports of a small group of individuals taking independent action in the Malibu area who've responded to the area believing they can assist in protecting the community. For those individuals and anyone else concerned, our department and our partners and the personnel on scene are able to ensure the protection of life and property of our communities. And we would appreciate your cooperation in remaining out of the impacted areas while we work toward returning our residents and businesses to these neighborhoods. Currently, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department has 632 deputy personnel deployed throughout this fire incident. We've implemented 12-hour shifts scheduled for a majority of our deputy personnel to ensure that we have adequate staffing to be able to maintain the service and protection to the communities and residents that we serve. While we greatly appreciate the phenomenal work being done by all of our firefighters, law enforcement personnel, supporting agencies and organizations who have left their families in the service of both our impacted counties, we're grateful to our residents and local businesses who continue to be patient and understanding as we work together to restore our communities. This will not happen quickly, but it will happen with all of us continuing to work together as one community. Thank you for your compassion to our neighbors and to those impacted families, and may God bless each and every one of you during these challenging times for both Los Angeles and Ventura counties. Thank you.
Next up, I'd like to bring from Ventura County Sheriff's Department, Captain Denise Sleva.
Hi, good afternoon. Today I'd like to mostly speak to our operations that we're conducting today for the fires, for the Woolsey and also still the Hill fires. Today we have 80 personnel devoted to the fires. Our objectives today for those personnel are to assist still with the repopulation of the areas that were evacuated, to provide high visibility patrol for the residents in that area so they can feel safe that we're looking out for looters, we're in the area, and also looking for possible flare-ups of the fire. Today we did have a flare-up of the fire this morning. We experienced that over in the Hidden Valley area. The Hidden Valley area and Lake Sherwood areas that are south of Potrero Road continue to be mandatory evacuation areas. And so we sent immediately about 40 to 50 personnel to that area to go through those communities again in case that area was repopulated. We did make contact with residents, reminded of the fire that was moving quickly their way, and were able to provide assistance for many of those residents that were fleeing the area. We also contacted individuals that were operating drones in that area, and we want to remind the public that this is not the time to get that picture. We cannot have drones interrupting the fire efforts. We just cannot have that. It's not safe. We ask the public to remain vigilant. We do have that one zone that is a mandatory evacuation area, again, south of Potrero Road in the Lake Sherwood area and Hidden Valley areas. That is our only mandatory evacuation area in Ventura County. I was asked to let the public know in the Thousand Oaks communities and unincorporated communities of the Thousand Oaks and Oak Park areas, there will be a meeting tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. at the Civic Arts Plaza Sure Forum. That is for the residents directly affected by the fires. There will be services there to give information on getting back home, essentially, to getting the services that you need, what is available to you. So again, that's tomorrow evening, Wednesday evening, 6 p.m. at the Civic Arts Plaza, the Sure Forum, for those residents affected. And one reminder again, for information on our evacuations and road closures, go to vcemergency.com. Thank you.
From the California Highway Patrol, we have Lieutenant John Castro.
Good morning, everybody. The CHP continues to work to ensure the safety of our highways and roadways that we're responsible for. I'll give you a quick update on the 101 freeway. We have lifted all closures for all on and off ramps on the 101 freeway in the affected areas except for Liberty Canyon. So Liberty Canyon is the only remaining closure at this time. As far as Pacific Coast Highway, PCH, it's still closed from Sunset to Las Posas. And due to the new flare-up that the sheriff just talked about, you can expect a possibility of additional closures if conditions change in the Lake Sherwood or Westlake area. That's all we have. Thank you.
Representing Ventura County Fire Department, we have Fire Chief Mark Lorenzen.
Good morning. I'd like to talk a little bit about the current fire situation. Just prior to 9 o'clock, I was contacted by my operations chief on the Woolsey Fire to give me a heads up that we're going to have some significant activity in the lower portion of Carlisle Canyon. That activity became pretty visible to the public about 9:15. You could see there was a large loom up, and what was basically happening there is there was a large unburned couple of canyons of fuel there. The fire came into alignment at the bottom of the canyon, and along with our significant winds, it pushed it up towards a prominent peak we call Boney Mountain. Fortunately for us, we have incredibly robust resources in and around the communities, specifically Lake Sherwood. We responded additional resources in there. I can tell the community that we are very confident that they are safe there. The wind is currently pushing the fire up and away from the populated areas. Again, what this points out to our public is that we are not out of the woods yet. We still have some incredibly tough conditions ahead of us. Please, as has been said in the past, please remain vigilant. Stay tuned to your local media outlets. We will let you know of any changing conditions, and please heed all evacuation warnings.
Cal Fire, we have Deputy Chief Nick Schuler.
Good morning. Over the last 30 days, firefighters from across California have battled more than 500 new fires. In the last week alone, more than 225,000 acres have burned, including the most destructive and deadly fire in California's history, the Paradise Fire. In Paradise, California. To show the effort that's been made here in Ventura and LA counties, I have a couple statistics for you. More than 15 air tankers have dropped nearly 500,000 gallons of retardant. 22 helicopters have dropped more than 1.5 million gallons of water, and we have hundreds of firefighters still committed to this incident and more than 8,700 statewide. As Santa Ana winds continue and the new fires begin, we ask the public to remain vigilant and listen to our law enforcement counterparts on evacuations. Thank you.
Now from the Los Angeles County Fire Department, Fire Chief Daryl Osby.
Good morning. Once again, Daryl Osby, Fire Chief, LA County Fire Department. And once again, on behalf of Supervisor Sheila Q, whose 3rd district is impacted, we'd like to thank everybody for their response and their hard work, including the media. And I had an opportunity last night and this morning to go out visit some of our firefighters and sheriff deputies that have been on the front line since day one, just to talk about their stories and how they were scrambling to save lives. And as you recognize that as a priority for first responders, our priorities are life, property, and then containment. And a lot of their initial efforts were just focused on saving lives, and they were proud from that respect that they were able to evacuate a lot of people. This morning we were having a conversation, and I was able to just reflect upon my career, and it's been a pretty dynamic career over the last 3 decades, that the only other challenging incident I've been on to this magnitude was Hurricane Katrina in 2005. As we stand here today, the total acreage on this fire is 96,314 acres. That's over 150 square miles, which is larger than the size of the city of Denver. I looked at our fire history maps this morning, and our fire history maps go back 100 years, and this is the largest fire on record, dating back over 100 years. To date, as I mentioned earlier, in the footprint of this fire, there's approximately 57,000 structures. Unfortunately, to date, as our burn assessment teams are doing their assessment, they've identified 435 structures that are destroyed. They're walking many canyons by foot or by vehicle in certain areas because the access is very limited. So it's going to take several more days for them to get a complete, accurate account of structures lost. But in my estimation, that number is going to rise significantly as they go through more pockets of canyons heading west. As mentioned by my counterpart from Ventura County as it relates to the flare-up in Carlisle Canyon, that's just an example of many canyons that we're concerned about in Los Angeles County. That's why the evacuation order is still in place. We have our firefighter crews and copters working diligently in these canyons to try to keep these fires at bay. But we are concerned that as it relates to the winds today, they're going to subside. And then probably Thursday or Friday, we're going to have maybe some onshore winds, which is going to shift the wind direction and also shift the direction in which some of these fires can burn. So we're primarily concerned about the south end of this fire in Malibu Canyon, to keep it in that canyon and not let it come out of the canyon to go to other parts of Malibu and potentially Topanga Canyon. In conclusion, I know the sheriff talked about people going back home. We're doing all that we can to allow people to go back home when it's safe. I can't even relate to being evacuated this long, but we will let you go back home when it's safe, where we have let people repopulate the communities and go back home. Between the Los Angeles County Fire Department and the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, we've established occupant support teams. So we will have personnel in those communities assisting people to shift through their homes if they've lost their property, to provide support for them. If you're unable to find a team, that you can visit any local county fire station to do that. And last but not least, the last meeting I had this morning, as we are trying to get this fire under control, is to go through the recovery phase and to allow people to start recovering from this catastrophic incident. But also, too, was brought to my attention that sometime next week we're going to be expecting our first rainfall for the year, which will be helpful for our firefighters, but as seen by the experience in the Thomas Fire from last year, that could potentially create some concerns with mud flows. So we're beginning to prepare for that. In conclusion, I would just like to thank the citizens for their cooperation and be safe.
At this time, I'd like to open up to any questions.
Well, I just want to reemphasize that the fire is still currently under investigation. So we are looking at all avenues and potential causes as it relates to this incident. And once those are determined and made known, then we'll release them publicly. As it relates to Southern California Edison, that's part of their responsibility to file that report with the California Public Commission. That it was brought to my attention that around the start of this fire that they had some alarms go off in their system as it relates to their utilities. It's unclear if the alarm was caused by the fire. It's unclear if it was related prior to the fire or after the fire, but all those things are being investigated.
The question is, should there be electrical equipment in areas that are vulnerable to fire that hasn't been hardened or reinforced? Maybe you're not the person to address that, maybe someone else, but we've seen this with the Thomas Fire, we've seen that with PG&E as well.
Yeah, I think that to get into technical details, we would need to have Southern California Edison to speak to that. But generically, we do need power to our homes and our businesses. And I am aware that our utility company is hardening the lines in our wildland interface areas. And I do know that they're filing an application to the commission to allow them to expend funds to continue that process to ensure that they're working with us to ensure that we have a safe community.
Can you invite Edison to your next news conference?
I will reach out to them.
Could I ask you, is there a feeling that you're getting the upper hand? The containment number keeps rising. It seems that you're preventing the fire from going much beyond the footprint
Well, absolutely. You can see by the fact that we don't have big loom ups that we're getting the upper hand here, and there is a lot of confidence that, as it relates to the containment and control of this fire, that we're feeling better. Our containment percentages have increased. I know that there's a deep concern and need and desire for our citizens to come back to their homes, which we truly are sensitive to. We feel as soon as we're comfortable in relation to the fire service side, our first responders from the law branch, and our utilities, because as it relates to these areas that are still evacuated, if you drive in there, we still have utility power lines down, debris in the roads, landslides, no services. And so we're still concerned about the safety and welfare of our citizens. And life safety is always the paramount priority for first responders. The question was, can we give examples of where we can see that the fire crews have gotten the upper hand on this fire? And I think that that's evident by the communities that we've allowed to go back home. And then we're reassessing more communities on this side of the 101 freeway to allow them to go back home safely. Our main concern as it relates to letting people go back home is primarily in the west side of the fire. And then once this fire threat diminishes, then the communities south and Topanga Canyon, when we feel comfortable that it's safe for them to go home, then we'll make that determination and let them go back home.
Chief, over the last few days, you've mentioned that more than 50,000 homes have been at risk. With the progress that you've made, are you able to give a number on how many homes may still be at risk? Do you feel that the risk has diminished?
The risk has diminished significantly. I mean, when you think about this fire several days ago, it burned from Bell Canyon to the ocean, which is approximately 30 miles in length. So our firefighters have gotten the upper hand in a lot of parts of this fire, including Bell Canyon. Our primary concern is in the everything west of us. There's still pockets of unburned brush. There's still a lot of hot spots with these winds. There's still a huge potential of embers burning those pockets of brush, as mentioned this morning by my counterpart, and evident in Ventura County. And so once that subsides, then we will be able to let more people go home. And as I also mentioned, that on the south side of this fire, we were concerned about Malibu Canyon. Once we feel comfortable in that area, then we'll be able to let the people in Topanga Canyon go back home.
Santa Susana lab questions, anyone? I don't know that anyone's able to.
Every fire official and law enforcement official will be available for comments, one-on-one questions. We're going to end this press conference now here at 11 o'clock. We'll update you for any other briefings. Again, everybody will be available for any other questions. Thank you.